In 2022, detectives in Columbus, Ohio reopened a cold case from 1998 after new DNA technology identified a suspect. The match was nearly perfect, 99.9% certainty. There was only one problem. The suspect had been dead for 12 years. The victim's name was Claire Whitmore, 19 years old, freshman at Ohio State University, studying journalism, bright, outspoken, ambitious. She worked part-time at a coffee shop near campus and dreamed of becoming an investigative reporter. On October 14, 1998, Claire left her evening shift at 9:18 p.m. She never made it back to her dorm. Her body was discovered 3 days later in a wooded area near Alum Creek. The medical examiner ruled it a homicide, strangulation. No witnesses, no clear suspects. Her parents, Robert and Diane Whitmore, spent decades attending parole hearings for unrelated offenders, hoping someone might confess. But the case went cold. For 24 years, Claire's file collected dust, until forensic genealogy changed everything. In early 2022, Columbus police partnered with a private lab specializing in advanced DNA sequencing. They extracted a preserved sample from Claire's clothing. The genetic profile was uploaded to a public genealogy database. Weeks later, investigators identified a distant cousin match. The family tree led them to a name that had never appeared in the original investigation: Ethan Holloway. Born 1969, former delivery driver, lived 10 miles from campus in 1998, died in 2010 from a reported overdose. Detectives retrieved archived fingerprint cards from Ethan's past employment records. A partial fingerprint lifted from Claire's clothing in 1998, once considered unusable, now matched. The department prepared to announce a long-awaited resolution. But something didn't sit right. Ethan Holloway had an alibi documented in 1998. He was reportedly on a delivery route during the time frame of Claire's disappearance. Company logs supported it. Investigators pulled the old delivery records. They discovered something unusual. The timestamps were handwritten and altered. Digging deeper, detectives found that the delivery company Ethan worked for had been owned by his older brother, Samuel Holloway. Samuel had never been investigated. Phone records from 1998 were limited, but financial documents showed Ethan and Samuel shared bank accounts during that period. Detectives requested permission to exhume Ethan's remains for confirmation DNA testing. The exhumation confirmed the genetic match. Ethan had been at the crime scene. But that didn't answer the bigger question. Was he alone? Interviewing surviving co-workers revealed a pattern. Samuel often swapped routes with Ethan without updating logs. He handled paperwork personally. Then, investigators found something buried in archived police interviews from 1998. A witness had reported seeing a white delivery van near the wooded area where Claire's body was found. At the time, officers couldn't trace it. The van belonged to Samuel, not Ethan. DNA from Claire's clothing matched Ethan, but additional trace fibers from the scene matched upholstery unique to Samuel's vehicle. The narrative shifted. What if Ethan had not been the mastermind, but the shield? Behavioral analysts studied the Holloway brothers' history. Ethan had a minor criminal record, petty theft, substance abuse. Samuel had none. He was married, respected in his church, organized community drives. But control can wear a clean face. Family interviews revealed Samuel had always been dominant, protective to the point of possessive. He managed finances. He managed business operations. He even managed Ethan's medical appointments during his addiction struggles. Investigators theorized that on the night of October 14, 1998, Samuel encountered Claire first. perhaps a chance interaction, perhaps something escalated. Ethan may have been present or arrived later. DNA doesn't always tell you who planned the crime. It tells you who was there. Under renewed scrutiny, financial records revealed that shortly after Claire's murder, Samuel transferred a significant sum of money into Ethan's account, labeled root adjustment. Months later, Ethan's addiction worsened dramatically. Guilt manifests in many forms. In 2010, Ethan was found dead from what was ruled an overdose. But toxicology reports showed something overlooked at the time: levels of a sedative inconsistent with voluntary consumption. Samuel had been the one who found him. When confronted in 2022, Samuel initially cooperated. He expressed sorrow for Claire's family. He blamed Ethan, stating, "He made mistakes. I tried to help him." Detectives pressed further. They presented the van fiber evidence, the altered logs, the money transfers, and the toxicology report from 2010. Samuel's demeanor shifted. Psychologists in the room observed classic deflection patterns: minimization, blame shifting, emotional detachment. Finally, investigators played a recorded interview from 1998 where Samuel had stated, "My brother isn't capable of something like that." When asked in 2022 why he was so certain, Samuel responded quietly, "Because I was there." The room went silent. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. Samuel Holloway was charged with accessory to murder and obstruction of justice. Prosecutors argued that he orchestrated the cover-up, manipulated delivery logs, shielded himself behind his younger brother's instability, and possibly orchestrated Ethan's overdose years later to permanently silence him. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Claire's parents sat through every session. When the guilty verdict was read, Diane Whitmore held a photograph of her daughter taken on her first day of college. She later said something that reporters never forgot. Time didn't protect him. It just waited. Karma rarely rushes. It gathers evidence quietly. It allows lies to build confidence. And then it returns, sometimes decades later, carrying a DNA report. Justice for Claire Whitmore did not come in 1998. It came in 2022. From a man who thought death had erased his involvement. But truth doesn't die with the guilty. It waits in preserved evidence bags. If this case reminded you that no crime truly disappears, subscribe to The Hidden Truth. Because even after decades of silence, justice can still find its way back.